girls she shared the dormitory with, and soon everyone was talking about what they got for Christmas and the fun things they'd done in the holidays. They chatted and laughed until eventually their parents started to talk about heading home. "I should get going too, Tashi," Mum said, calling her by the name she'd used when Tash was a little girl. Tash sighed quietly. In her excitement about being back at school, she'd almost forgotten that it meant saying goodbye to Mum again. Outside in the car park, Mum pulled Tash close for a long, tight hug, and Tash gripped Mum's coat, wishing she could make the hug go on forever. She felt Mum kiss the top of her head and heard her say, "I love you." Tash hugged her even harder and mumbled, "I love you too," into her coat. "Have a good term, darling," said Mum, pulling back to look at her. "I'll see you at Easter." Tash had said she wanted to stay at school over half-term because it had been so much fun last term, spending time with her friends and going on a special trip to see the City Ballet Company perform The Sleeping Beauty. She'd enjoyed it so much and had been so eager to go back to Aurora House after Christmas that she told Mum she didn't mind staying at school this time. But now that she was standing in the car park saying goodbye again, she wasn't so sure. Danny and her older sister, Helen, were saying goodbye to their parents at the same time as Tash, and she caught up with them at the back door into the school building. "At least we have ballet tomorrow morning," said Danny. "True," said Tash, thinking of the big, bright studio they used for their 2-hour ballet class each morning. She felt her sadness being pushed away by excitement. She couldn't wait to get back into the studio and start dancing. "Trust me," said Helen, who was in her final year at Aurora House. "In a few days, you'll both have forgotten all about home and parents. You'll have way more important things to think about." "What do you mean?" asked Danny. "Exams, remember?" replied Helen. "All years have ballet exams at the end of the spring term. I think we have them this term because we have academic exams at the end of the summer term." "I'd forgotten," said Tash. "All I've been thinking about is getting back to ballet classes and seeing you guys again." She smiled at Danny, who grinned back and did a little skip of excitement. "Are the exams usually difficult?" Tash asked Helen, feeling a tiny twinge of nerves at the thought. "If you work hard this term, you'll be fine," said Helen with a shrug. "Easy for you to say," Danny muttered, rolling her eyes at Tash. "You can't put a foot wrong here. Literally." Helen and Tash both laughed. Helen was one of the best dancers at the school, but Danny always exaggerated the difference between herself and her sister. Although it sometimes took Danny a while to remember sequences of steps, the truth was that she was a great dancer too. Tash hoped that, even though she often put herself down in a jokey way, Danny knew that she was as talented as the rest of their year. After all, only 12 girls and 12 boys had been given places in Year 7 at Aurora House, and every one of them had the potential to be a professional dancer. The next 7 years at school would find out who was going to make it. "I bet you'll have something more exciting to think about next week, too," continued Helen with a twinkling smile. "What?" demanded Tash and Danny. They had stopped at the bottom of the stairs that led up to Capellia. "Point shoes," said Helen. She smiled widely at them and walked off before they could ask any more questions. Danny and Tash looked at each other and identical grins spread across their faces. They'd all received a letter from the school during the holidays telling them that they'd be starting point work this term and that their parents would need to pay for the shoes, but Tash had had no idea it would be so soon. Point shoes. They were finally going to dance on the tips of their toes the way ballerinas did. Helen was right. This was enough to put all thoughts of home immediately out of their minds. They raced up the stairs as fast as they could and burst into Capellia to tell the others the news. "Finally! Finally!" finally!
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.